but like there is something to that battle-y type aspect of beating people to a parking lot. That's an aspect of a hard-earned buck. If you're hunting a private piece and you have to hunt around some people, that's a hard-earned buck. If you knocked on doors all off-season to get the best permission, that's a hard-earned buck. But I do think you have to be able to drag that deer some distance. I think that's the...
So what's the threshold? 100 yards, 200 yards?
We should figure it out here, because that is an aspect. I think it's got to be at least...
Lights,
camera,
follow the trail.
ready to shoot.
If you know where a deer's bedding and you know where he's eating, that deer should be dead.
Camera.
If you're passive on a deer, what you're doing is you're teaching them.
I've got 30 bucks in the Michigan record book. Everyone but one has had at least one previous wound on his body. Some had as many as 4.
Trail Cam Radio from the guys at Exodus.
All right, we are live with another episode of Trail Cam Radio in the studio, upgraded studio, office makeovers is what one way to call it. But anyways, we have Byron Horton. You are guest number 2 in the office for podcast guests. Thank you for coming up rather. Right?
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. This is a pretty cool setup. You guys have definitely made some moves here in the studio.
For sure, yeah. So, Ohio native.
Yeah.
Would you call yourself a DIY guy?
Yeah, I think so. I think spend most of my time doing some public land. I do have a small piece that I try to work on or whatever, but kind of cut my teeth now. I'm doing the public land thing for a couple years.
So what do you do for a living as well?
So I kind of work in the financial area for an electric company. And then I got a side hustle kind of doing some media work in the hunting space with XOP and Lone Wolf Custom Gear and the DeQuistos. So been very blessed to talk to some great deer hunters right there. So that kind of has spawned, and also got a YouTube channel, the Whitetail Experience is, I don't know, man, you blink, it just snowballs and you get a bounce or two to go your way. And it's been awesome.
I mean, there's we follow your content, not religiously, but we try to check in because often on your YouTube channel, you're spitting out some pretty valuable videos, like short, digestible, meaningful videos that you're putting out with purpose. That, I mean, there's like,
you can tell you work in the financial space.
Yeah, sure. Just the spreadsheet and your analytical approach, like the video you did about, the cost of running trail cameras, like the battery breakdown. I'm like, God.
Yeah, I want to dive into
darn,
that later.
That was a powerful video. I'm like, why aren't we doing
that? Sure. Well, and then I do take a little bit of pride in production quality. Mm-hmm. YouTube barrier to entry is 0, so a lot of people in that space. But I do try to increase that production value from our channel. So yeah.
So I guess you're talking about a story of a video you're editing here for an upcoming project. A guy that slept in this tree stand.
Yeah.
What are some crazy things that you've done in terms of like your work of like your editing? You're like, what?
That's a crazy story that you stumble across. I'm editing for Whitetail Addictions, the web show, and one guy talked about he was chasing a big buck, and I don't want to give too much details, but literally slept in his stand. And based on what I could see from the card, the dude was crazy enough to sleep in his stand. He was that committed to the cause. I would say some of the other crazier things would be, Cody would laugh at this story, but running out of drone battery as you're flying through timber, and like me panicking, or the cell phone dies and it's over a frozen river one time. And it's getting like the most epic sunrise and ice chunks are floating down the river, right? Like National Geographic's gonna pay me for this. And my phone dies and the thing tries to auto land in the timber. It hits a branch, but there was like 6 inches of snow. And at the time, we're talking to, I only had one drone, and that was a financial big purchase up in the sky, falling to its death. But yeah, there are some moments of that stick out in this path I've been down.
Did the drone survive or?
Drone survived.
Yeah.
Footage was there. It was great.
Last weekend I crashed my drone. I was taking a pano shot and it's supposed to have, like the sensors like beep, 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 beep. And all of a sudden I'm flying and I'm like really far away and then it's like crashes. And then I went and picked it up. I'm like, oh, this sucks. It was fine. I went and flew it again. Right there. So they're kind of incredible little
there's a lot
there.
Packed in there.
Yeah. So let's dive a little bit more into your hunting style. So you run with an interesting crowd in terms of like style. Yeah. That's a little bit polarizing for some. I mean, it's obviously garnered a lot more attention and acceptance. But kind of tell us a little bit more about I guess, your hunting style in general?
Sure. So like I would say like I'm in this evolving stage of my hunting career. Like I don't have a wall of giants by any means, but starting to knock down some bucks on a semi-consistent basis. And, you know, picking and choosing, I feel like things that have come out or molding stuff but I think I'm a firm believer in the year-round approach, off-season scouting, gas and time are super valuable. You know, some of this, I can't hunt like the Drurys, but I can take something that I heard from Andre and then take something that I heard from Justin and kind of maybe mirror it to my approach. But I think the more I do this, the more I can maybe speak to the guy who's got a day job, but trying to do public land deer hunting on a semi-elevated level.
I mean, I think that there's a lot of people that can relate with that. I would certainly think. What's been some kind of, you know, with the content that you've put out in the past, like, is there any rewarding stories or anything that you've seen resonate extremely well with people that came across your content?
Yeah, I would say, you know, the Whitetail experience and people that follow my story, like they root for you. Like we don't have very many subscribers on YouTube compared to like THP, but like some of the buck films will get upwards of 25,000 views, and you're like, what? Why would people watch my video? And then comment like, oh, this is. There's comments of guys like, man, it's nice to see like real guys getting it done and great production quality as well. Like it's crazy how much my phone blows up if a picture goes out and we've been successful. It's very humbling.
Yeah.
And then it's crazy to think too. I've had dinner with some of the greatest deer hunters, arguably on the
face of the earth.
Yeah,
sure.
So yeah, there's plenty of humble type moments, but yeah, some of those stick out to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is proof of how you resonate with people. If people didn't resonate with you, they wouldn't take the time to reach out and let you know that, like, wow, that's awesome, congratulations, or this tip really helped me. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And like, I think my brand too, like, targets me at age 18. I am ate up with deer hunting. I don't come from a deer hunting family. And Pops and my grandpa shot a bunch of groundhogs, but nothing like hunting, like deer hunting. And I'm ate up with it. There's posters on my college dorm of just like 140-inch bucks cut out of Field and Stream magazine.
That's cool.
and I have no idea how to kill those, right? I have no idea how, but I want to learn. And at that time, the resources were just basically your big TV shows. And that process doesn't work for me. Or work, you know,
it's not relatable.
Yeah. And so like my brand is literally targeting myself at age 18. So I give details of what I'm doing or statistics. If somebody would have took me at 19 and said, hey, walk 70 miles every off season, pull out your GPS, leave detailed notes. Here's some key gear that may really lead you down the right path. Here's some key gear that wouldn't. But like literally I'm mentoring myself at age 18, 19 years old.
That's a really cool perspective.
Solid approach.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
I think, you know, outside of the strategy stuff, you do a really good job, like you said, with the gear, telling folks what you've used, what your opinion on it is, and you're spending your money on it, and whether you buy it again. I know I respect your opinion, and I've made purchases because of that, like the Grail, the plunger style water filter. Like that's not a cheap. It's $100 or $100, $90, whatever it was. Seeing you use it. We have similar styles, what we do on public land, moving a lot. So I went out and made the purchase. Like if Byron's using it, I'm going to give it a shot. That could end up being my best gear purchase of 2021. Like it is. I've drank water from beaver ponds, ditches, streams. I was a little skeptic at first. So I went and found like top of the stream, top of the hill, like the cleanest water I could find, low tannin levels, like clear, like something I would say, okay.
Semi-moving-ish.
Oh yeah, flowing. Something where I'm like, okay, well, I might be able to just drink this and not get too sick if I didn't have a filter. I'll start there. Yeah. And as I progress, like I'm drinking water out of the freaking driveway, beaver ponds. There's a running joke that, you know, previous on the podcast we had Dan Bayes on, and I'm talking about this thing, like talking it up. And he's like, would you drink piss out of it? I said, Dan, if you got pee in that bottle, and I will drink it right now. Like that's how much.
And that's what the people want.
And that came from you saying, hey, like this works for me. Like give it a look.
No, the people want you to drink
Oh,
yeah,
they
that's
do want
coming.
me to drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Look forward to that. So how'd you find out about that project?
So a buddy of mine, Jake Bush, recommended it, who's another DIY, spends a lot of time scouting, and he's like, dude, like this is working for me. And I kind of have an aspect of something that's going to keep me scouting longer, not weigh me down.
Yeah.
Some of that, like, kind of, I don't know, fitness or ability to keep going type of mentality. I was like, okay,
Major convenience too.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. We're good at transitions here.
That's all right.
100 and some episodes
Hard
in.
transition.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about, you talked about scouting and leaving detailed notes.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that. Like, what are the notes you're making? Are you able to, for me, it's like, I fall into like, I'll remember that. But when I write down something, it's like you're able to go right back to it.
Sure.
What does that look like for you?
So, the leaving detailed notes, I feel like, is something you learned over time when, let's say you mark a tree stand location, you just have the general icon there. Well, you're scouting, right? It's February. This tree looks, you're leaving your icon. Well, what you realize is you come back in there October and it's fully leafed out.
Mm-hmm.
Trees might have even fallen, and you're trying to find this in the dark with a headlamp. So you really, if there's a cluster, you may pick the wrong one, and there's a reason why you pick that certain tree. So leaving detailed notes like next to the beech tree, maple split 10 foot up. And sometimes I'll leave stand hunting height.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I will draw the final 50 yard that I need to approach because I don't want to leave ground scent over something very specific. Yeah. I may leave a note in there as far as wind direction to hunt, or maybe even a note as far as be sure to be able to shoot the scrape. Little things like that I feel like have added up where over the course of figuring this out is I didn't leave a note and then I was 5 yards off and the buck got away. Or you get up and the daylight comes up and you're like, dude, this isn't even the right tree. Because sometimes OnX is not the most accurate.
Yeah.
I've been there. I've made that mistake more than once. Where
you think you've got to be within 3 yards of the tree and you're 23 yards off. And you're like, shoot, like I'm not even able to shoot the trail or the feature or whatever. And now the sun's up and you either got to make the move or figure it out at that point. And that's just a terrible feeling. So yeah, leaving those detailed notes. And a lot of times too, let's talk, off-season scouting, you're walking along and now you found your hunting location. You didn't map the best route in there. You just stumbled across it. So sometimes it takes an additional scout, or maybe that's your summer to-do project at that point is, okay, I found my stand location. Well, where can I park? Where should I park? What's the best way in there? There are multiple ways in there. So I feel like now you see me off-season scouting, it's note-taking as I'm there, because I know that when it's November 5th, headlamps on, it's dark, and I've got adrenaline pumping, right? Because I'm in there for a reason. Mm-hmm. Now I've got the notes to hopefully make the right judgment call.
So you go in and actually put your OnX tracker right to your stand, or like the route that you would want to take?
Yeah,
and I basically track that.
I'll use that tracker feature to mark easements that you can't see, or I'll leave a note that, hey, this is the trail to take through a certain terrain feature. Like if you're hunting bluff country, sometimes you can't, if you know where you can get up those bluffs, that's a huge advantage to Joe Schmo who may be coming from out of state that doesn't know that.
Right. True.
What about, you're doing a lot of off-season scouting, some stuff over the summer with trail cameras. I got to imagine your OnX probably looks a lot like mine, like heavily populated
waypoints
pins,
everywhere.
Just everywhere. So is there a process or a color code or a scheme or a method to the madness to kind of categorize those visually when you're looking at them to where you're not?
I have a little bit of color coding that I do with certain pins. Scrapes are blue, cameras are a purple, and I'm partially colorblind. So if you pull this out, they're off a little bit, but they're all the same color. Whites are generally points of interest that I physically haven't been to, but maybe e-scouted.
Okay.
And I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest e-scouter. A lot of those are boots to ground notes that are in my system.
Yep.
But I don't think I have the best method to the madness for organization purposes. I do use some spreadsheets for tracking trail cameras and data.
Oh yeah.
I do have some tricks to putting an SD card and pulling those in subfolders and stuff like that. I do have some tricks that way, but yeah, my OnX is probably nothing much more than yours.
Okay. Well, just I know we've talked about spreadsheets in the past and the way that you're categorizing those and maybe putting values on some. That takes a lot of, again, the analytical approach. That takes a lot of emotion and thinking out of the process. Like when you look at, like we'll draw a parallel to like the modern day GMs of professional sports teams. Like everyone now is making analytical decisions, not emotional decisions. And you see the success that arises from that. We run our business a lot.
Yeah.
Very similar. Like you take the emotions out of it. You don't make emotional decisions. You make analytical decisions. And things tend to work out more in your favor. So it's cool to see you take that from, your professional career and move that, kind of put that into your hunting style while still taking everything, like things from Andre or things from Justin, things from Heath, and making that work for, who you are as a hunter. That's cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that was one of the biggest learning lessons is the more I do this, the more I realize like I can't just mirror what Cody does. I can't just mirror what this guy does over here. This guy may also hunt public, and I can only take maybe 10 or 20% of what he's doing and apply to my method. I feel like me at 19 said, oh, this expert has it this way to get it done. I got to do exactly that. Right. Now I'm more like, you're your best expert because you're in those woods that you're hunting. I've spent enough time, I feel like, doing this that I've seen success from different areas and been able to apply things from this podcast or this YouTube video. And some of the stuff I'll hear a guest and be like, that just wouldn't work. Mm-hmm. So I've become very okay with just because an expert has a great wall doesn't mean I can learn everything from it, but I generally can take something and make my own style, and that's the most important.
Well, let's go backwards just a little bit, and let's draw put some context around the types of pieces that you are hunting, because I think when people think of Ohio, there's a lot of different.
Oh yeah.
People think ag ground, big fields, corn. Like people think different things when I think of Ohio. So what kind of terrain and what kind of habitat? Like what are you hunting?
Yeah, I would say I do hunt it all, but I would say I'm a 60-40 split towards the bigger woods or non-agriculture type land. Don't get me wrong. 3 years ago was a farm country style buck, and the last 2 have been big woods here in the state. I kind of love that romance that's out there of just endless timber, and I'm like, there could be a giant in that holler. And I think I'm drawn to that, and I think I'm finding myself more okay with the consequences or that style of hunting where you may not see as many deer, or it may be a touch further to drive to sometimes, stuff like that. But that's kind of my draw, and I'm becoming okay with that at this point.
That's cool.
2 big woods bros over there. Here we go.
But at the same time, if I get details on some farm country stuff that I do hunt, like I'm not gonna not hunt it.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us a little bit about your last track record over the last 3 years too. You've been on a little bit of a tear, and the dates you killed them, if you remember.
Yeah. 3 years ago, October 25th-ish, I think the 5th, and farm country piece, I'd off-season scouted and ran in that trail camera late the year before there. Never been to this piece, scattered one camera, spent some time, I think 2 days down there scouting it out. Found what I call a buck nest, good habitat, lots of rubs. Like something's got to be in here, right? That trail camera had a good buck and a couple like tweeners or 2.5-year-olds that for me, next year, if they're kind of 130-ish, that's a shooter for me. Mm-hmm. And anyways, went in there October 25th, scout your way in type hunt. And I got to a point where I'd seen a collection of rubs and these started increasing, and I couldn't get to my pin at this point. I said, I need to be hunting here. Ended up hanging a set, kind of low, like probably 10, 12 foot off the ground. And sure enough, hour before closing time, like well before, solid, 20-inch wide 10 comes through.
White frame deer.
Yeah, white rack. So like he's probably sun bleached, and was able to get the shot off as he caught my ground scent and was able to recover him.
Was that the first year you started hunting real low?
Yes. Right about this time, I started spending more time with Cody, and he was kind of saying, I only bring 2 sticks to the woods. I kind of thought it was crazy. Mm-hmm. And I was like, there's no way that'll work. But for whatever, I started being okay with that. And we had gun hunted low before because gun season rolls around. You got the advantage of a firearm. And you can track in 2 sticks, get up in a stand. You can see a long ways just being about 10 foot off the ground because you're standing.
Yep.
And so we had done that for guns, but yeah, bow, I thought it was crazy. So yeah, I was able to take that deer. The following year was more of a traditional rut grind. I've shot a couple of bucks on the last day of rutcation. This one happened to be it. I saw this buck the day before, I think at 2 or 3 o'clock. I generally hunt all day during the rut. And he was 120, worked to about 60, and then went some dumb direction. I thought I was going to kill him. And so I, the next morning, a little different access, came up the trail, and I literally said, okay, if he repeats, I'll be ready. And sure enough, about 10 o'clock, he repeated. And so he was early, but that worked out, and I was able to shoot him and recover him. And that deer, that was a long day of pulling him out. He died in a hellhole. But yeah, that was a nice big woods buck. And then this year, more similar, October. It was kind of early, like 20th. It might be, yeah. It wasn't terribly late. So October 20th, I actually had been monitoring this particular scrape next to a clear cut, maybe it's a hogback, like had a lot going on over the summer, and it had the most shooter bucks on trail cam. And there was actually a G2 8 that I was in there after, and I actually get to the scrape that I wanted to hunt, and I couldn't tell if it was opened up or not. And I have an elevated trail cam behind me. I literally put my stick on the tree, looked at the scrape, and I said, maybe not. Or maybe it's not open. So I scouted like another 100 yards behind me. A G2 8 came. No. Yes, I had shifted, but we figured this out. So I move 100 yards away from this initial ambush point, and I find 3 scrapes torn up, good beat trails. I'm like, this is it. Only problem was no tree. There was one tree that was about as round as a softball, but it had 3 beech trees around it that were spindly, like smaller beeches. So they had a lot of leaves. Yeah. So it's like, dude, I got like a mini tree for it. Like, I didn't even need to put a stick on the tree. I literally set my stand maybe like 3 feet high. And hour before dark, I look up, and this deer, the only thing I remember, his black eyes, and he's wide. And he's 7 yards from me. Cause like, I had all these other like beaches in the area, right? And beech trees block a lot. So, and it was raining that day. It rained all day.
Can't hear anything.
I can't hear anything. And I hadn't seen any other deer. I look up and he's right there. I was like, I just remember black eyes, wide rack. And I said, if I can get my bow, I can shoot him. But like, I don't know if I could get the bow. And got the full draw. He sticks his head in there. He's shaking his head in the leaves. And I shoot him.
Man.
So he had no clue you were there.
No. This film should come out here in a month. Just so it should be a good one. But yeah, 7 yards, 3 foot high. I shoot him, and I wasn't like 100%. I remember the pin hit. I remember taking an extra second. I jumped out of the stand, and because I had to get signal. I didn't have signal, and you have the debate of it's kind of rainy-ish out. Like,
you wait.
Do you press to get the blood trail with daylight, or do you not? Because then you got a horror story. We actually didn't recover that buck that night. Dave and Andy came to help, full headlamp team, and he went about 60, 70 yards, blood both sides. We lost him, but came back the next day, and we were about 60 yards from finding him. Okay. And he was just, he ran roughly 120, and we just couldn't figure out where he'd gone after about 60, 70. So that was a good day.
That sounds like a pretty intense hunt.
Yeah, that one's memorable. And it's crazy too to look back. What if I'd have hunted that scrape initially? Because there was a bigger buck that came through, and then the buck I ended up shooting, the trail cam history showed these 2 bucks were battling over this scrape. Mm-hmm. Like, those bucks probably would have met and fought that night. I think the one buck caught my trail because there was only one main going away from where the trail cam was. But yeah, those bucks were probably going to duke it out because they were both on their feet that night.
What was the date of that? Do you remember?
I think October 20th.
That's what he said.
So was that your first time? I mean, obviously, you did some scouting to find that scrape, hung the trail camera or whatever. But was that like the first hunt in that spot?
No, I hunted that early October, and I saw some does. And I was like, okay. And I pulled that camera that day after seeing those does in there. And again, that particular scrape had like 3 shooters on it. Mm. And so point of interest and time of year, late October, it had rained for 24 hours and stopped. Mm. And I'm like, my wife and I got in a fight that week because on Monday I said, hey, Thursday I need to deer hunt. Like, you can see that forecast and you guys see it. Yeah. Well, Wednesday rolls around. Hey, the girls want to take me out, you know, and I was like, babe, like I kind of need to hunt. And it was.
Is that how you said it?
A little heated.
A little heated, you know, but clearly.
So you went and killed the deer.
That's some ammo for future, right?
Yeah. Hey, I'm right when I say I need to do it.
Jake, I'll give you some lessons here.
Yeah, I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So, tell us more about that scrape location in particular. Why was it so good, do you think?
I gotta be careful here.
Sure.
Yeah, but so what I think made that one good. One, you have a mini hogback that's not visible from the topo. Like you could look at the topo map and you don't see this little cut that forces deer down into a tight area. And then you have a clear cut, obviously. And I think this clear cut's a touch older. It's not a 3 to 5 year like feeding type clear cut. It's more of a covery.
Yep.
And then there's I think what made that one, beyond those two features, there is some oaks on some of the knobs in that area. But I think it was more just homework. I think the year before I had scouted that area out and found a good couple key trails, good buck sign. Access was kind of second level as far as you do a big J hook to get in there versus just straight walking. So 2 or 3 things and a little bit of homework. I don't think it was. I think that's what made it essentially.
When did you find that scrape? Postseason scouting?
Yeah, I think I found that particular ambush kind of location in January, February, but then hung the trail cams. Let's call it June, July, and obviously when I pulled them in August and then again in October, the bucks were in there. It was just a matter of hopefully meeting up with one of them or figuring one of them out.
So tell us a little bit more about your. I mean, it's June right now, so let's talk a little bit more about your June and July trail camera deployment. Is that pretty much completely hinged on your January, February scouting, or is that actually like you're still doing that right now and still looking for locations?
No, that's an area of improvement, I think, for myself, because until 2 years ago, like I had maybe like 3 to 4 cameras, like they were okay level as far as performance. And then 2 years ago, I really started investing in and seeing the value. I kind of developed, I feel like, some skill sets from off-season scouting to really utilize if I got a picture of a buck. And so, you know, as far as now, it's like when I am off-season scouting, I'm like, oh, this is an easier trail cam location, or this would be a good particular location, whether it be a better creek crossing or maybe a scrape that's not terribly far off the road. I will say I think I am done with the Beanfield summer elevated set.
Too many false triggers?
You get those oceany type waves that blow across those beans, and I just... Yeah,
for those June, July to August soaks, probably pretty low success rate.
Yeah, so I'm not as hard pressed to get out my farm country stuff at this point. I wanted to wait till after turkey season, just less people in the woods, to get my bigger wood stuff out. And honestly, as far as checking them, I'm not super pressed to know what's going on June, July, August. It's really I'm a firm believer in get your trail cameras out when you can. The battery life these days is good enough. The SD cards can be big enough. You need that thing to be operational once season comes, and you don't know if you're going to get busy with a bunch of weddings or wife's got plans. So like if you bank on all this time in July, August, and then it doesn't happen because of X, Y, and Z, then you don't have any trail cams out. So I'm not afraid to go start putting my big wood stuff out at this point.
So, you know, you find these locations, postseason scouting, hanging your cameras in the summer. Are you the type of guy like, okay, are you seeing deer move around or shift? I mean, we all talk about deer shifting, breaking up from bachelor groups. Are you shifting your cameras to different types of habitat, or are a lot of the summertime locations still producing or still fruitful come fall?
So one, I will run summer trail cameras maybe closer to the road or easier access type stuff because that's, you know, there's less people in the woods in the summer. Some stuff I will not shift. As far as deer shifting, dude, I'm right on the line. I've picked up sheds off a buck. I had him summer trail cameraing and October daylighting, like, you know, all within maybe 50 acres.
Wow.
Very tight. Like from where I got October daylight trail cam pics and summer trail cam pics to sheds, we're talking 200 yards.
Was it a match set?
Match set.
So it's funny you bring that up because when we were in Iowa for whitetail cribs, we were visiting with Scott Seabolt, and he's killed his fair share of big whitetails. And he said, if you find a match set, like in a bedding area, you're going to kill that deer. That he pretty much said, if I find a match set in the bedding area, mark that deer as dead because I'm going to kill him.
Okay.
And I was out of curiosity if that tracked.
Yeah. Now I feel like some of my big woods deer don't shift as much as hill country or maybe woods that have access to ag if they would migrate a couple miles, because we have seen that where like all summer we're like, dude, lining up a big one.
Yeah.
Season starts, they go MIA.
We see it a little bit. I think it depends on the hardwoods that you're in. Like typically in the summer and the big woods, hill country stuff that we're in, like we focus on those younger clear cuts. Like we treat them like bean fields. So there's lots of edge, there's lots of browse, forbs. They get bed in them.
Yeah.
Summer trail cameras there. And then we're trying to find, we'll run primary scrapes all year round.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
everyone knows now, like scrapes aren't just, late October through the rut. Like, they will use that licking branch year round if it's the right scrape. But I think that we see that shift like when the acorns start dropping, that's typically when we're seeing those peripheral scrapes or those edge scrapes, rubs and stuff like that pop up. And then we don't necessarily shift cameras because we have so many of them.
Sure.
We're just like, we'll add one here, add one there, but definitely see the deer move around as far as what they're doing from, July, August to October, November. But we interviewed Don Higgins just a couple nights ago, and we were talking about summer trail camera strategies and usable data that you can actually take from summertime and put it to work come fall. One of the things we were talking about was mature bucks coming back to that summer range one time towards that
3-day window between the 5th and 7th.
Yeah, so 5th, 6th, 7th.
The biggest deer we had on trail cam did that this year. It disappeared on us in the core of hunting season, but made a rogue mission. So that kind of
tracks.
Yeah.
Deer I wounded, and I talked about it on the last podcast to a T. I could pull up a video of where he was with a bachelor group beating up the younger bucks, and he was like the same exact spot. And that was from Don's advice. So it's like, how do you not take his advice? Yeah. And it paid off. So that's always interesting. And that's where I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions or misunderstandings of summer trail cameras. I think it's a little charged. I think opinions are a little charged. Like there's different camps there. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of successful people that rely on summer trail camera. I mean, if you get a picture of a giant in the summer, where do you want to park at for the 5th, 6th, and 7th if you don't have anything else going on? Like that's your best opportunity.
That's how you shot that deer.
Yeah, to a T.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then you get, you're wasting your time. You're doing this, you're doing that. And I was like, well, I don't know.
I've been on both sides of it. You get excited about finding all these giant velvet deer, and then it's like, all right, well, come October, and it really in like 2015, 2016, like when we were first down there trying to figure that area out, it's like, all right, you have this deer on camera all summer, and then boom, he's gone. Just every deer's different, right? Like the habitat's different. You just have to not box yourself in.
Yeah, but my whole thing too is like, you can still learn more stuff. Like if you find deer with like giant bases, like then like stars, can you get access to different pieces? Is there a big enough track where you can move around and find it?
Right.
To me, it's like, why wouldn't you? Like, what else are you doing? They're
Right.
just gonna be sitting on your shelf anyways. Like, go put them to use.
Yeah, you paid for them, might as well use them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, so all right. Looking through here. Okay, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What do you consider a hard-earned buck?
Oh,
That's your brand. That's your hashtag.
So yeah, our hashtag is hard-earned bucks, and I think it's there's a few requirements.
Okay.
I think I was very much tricked by the mid 2000s TV shows,
Sure.
and I think one, it can be public or private. Like I feel like in today's Facebook world, some people are bashing public versus private guys, but no, and either works. If you put in a lot of consecutive hours, whether it be improving habitat, running trail cameras, scouting off season, that counts. I do think you have to drag the deer somewhat of significant distance.
Okay, yeah.
Because I had somebody one time on Facebook say, I congratulate a guy. He's like, oh, that's not a hard-earned buck. I said, no, that guy put, that is. It's not a public-private thing. I said, but like there is something to that battle-y type aspect of beating people to a parking lot. That's an aspect of a hard-earned buck. If you're hunting a private piece and you have to hunt around some people, that's a hard-earned buck. If you knocked on doors all off season to get the best permission, that's a hard-earned buck. But I do think you have to be able to drag that deer some distance. I think that's the...
So what's the threshold? 100 yards, 200 yards?
We should figure it out here because that is an aspect. I think it's got to be at least 50 to get it to a 4-wheel trail where you can pull up on it.
It's your brand, like it's your call.
I don't know. I just envision, when I say hard-earned bucks, I just envision either one or two guys grabbing that deer by the antlers and pulling it.
I like that aspect of the hunt because it's just like,
that's the final.
Yeah,
that's the final.
Yeah.
Every deer hunter, even if he only drags it 5 yards, has to pull that deer by the antlers.
I think gets the blood pumping. The last 2 morning bucks I've shot were like really early in the morning, like right, within first light or so, or the recovery was. Both times my dad's like, I got to work today. I'll go look at it. Both times. All right, I got to go to work. Leaves me with this deer in the middle of a gully. And the deer I shot 2 years ago, it was like, okay, we recovered at like 7 o'clock. It was like 2 o'clock before I got out of there because it was a giant gully, like big elevation change. I couldn't drive my equipment anywhere back in there. So I'm giving myself a hard-earned buck there.
Yeah,
but
and you're very dedicated to the craft. Like I do think, now the guy that maybe, no offense, the outfitted hunts, they paid an intern $20 a day to sit there and bino glass a field. You show up and you shoot it. That may not be a hard-earned buck. I think I'm going to draw a line somewhere in there.
I'm hopefully going to draw Iowa this year, and I am going to go with an outfitter. And part of me is dreading that.
Yeah.
Like, because you're not getting the full process. You're like, I'm not, well, if I draw, I want to go put my cameras out. But like, you're not getting the full experience. And I don't know, like, part of me, like, half of it's thinking about it.
Could you ask to sublease from the outfitter because you want that experience? Turn me loose on the X number of acres.
I think they'll turn me loose based on the conversation, but I at least want to hang cameras. And now I have to drag it out. Like, that's leave the gator at the house. I'm dragging this. Took 5 years to draw this tag.
Want sweat for it.
Yeah, absolutely. But okay. So we clarified it. You have to drag it. You have to work hard. It's what is not a hard-earned buck? Not to throw anyone under the bus. What is not a hard-earned
I just feel like those TV shows in the 2000s that tricked me when I watched this dude, who didn't hang that stand, didn't run the trail cameras, the low intern at the lodge who glasses this bean field every night knows what's in there, not the hunter. Like, he was the trigger man.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you're just
that's what it boils down to.
Yeah,
Like, you're the guy squeezing the trigger.
Yeah.
To me, that's not fulfilling.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I would assume.
It's weird because like I've never hunted with an outfitter, and I'm in this, like, I'm 3 points in my hand, the whole Iowa thing. I'm on the phone talking to outfitters too.
Oh yeah.
Because like
You're only gonna hunt. We did the math. You're gonna hunt it 7 times in your life.
in my entire
Best case scenario.
life, like, do I want to deal with the public land, like all the added variables? Like, there's no, like, I get, and public versus private. Like, I'm not saying that public land is significantly harder than private. On some pieces it is. Like, there's, like, if you have a private piece that's to yourself where you can control all the variables, you're much better off. Yeah. But there's not, like, there's private pieces where you deal with trespassers.
Yeah, you got a 40-acre lease, 80-acre lease.
Yeah, neighbors hunting.
Might as well be public.
Yeah, exactly. There are those scenarios, but being able to take those variables out, like, for that specific Iowa tag, I don't know. Like, and I'm on the fence because I know, like, regardless of what I shoot, it's not gonna, like, I'm not gonna have the same feeling with that deer. Like, it's just not. It's not the same. It's not gonna be the same.
But that experience can still make you a better bow hunter. You can still really enjoy the trip.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you have to, I think you, like, from our perspective, like, guys at DIY, like, to do the work, grind out, enjoy the process. I think you need to approach that trip with just a different mindset. Like, maybe it's a relaxed vacation, but I'm just not, like, high intensity guy. Like, that's not my thing. Like, I don't want to relax. Like, I want to get after it. So I don't know. We'll see.
He's gonna show up now. You got any hills around here? You got any big wood sections? No, that's cool. Okay, let me ask you this: how many points do you have in Iowa?
I don't have any.
What? Woo! I figured the DeQuistas would let you loose on their farm.
No, I am on the lease with Justin and Heath there in Illinois. So
solid. That's good. Yeah,
I was there for a few days this year, and man, that was cool.
Track record of what they pulled out of there.
Those guys are incredible.
Yeah,
like I love talking to both of them, but like I could sit and talk to Heath for freaking days. Like he's a
easy guy to talk to.
He's a captivating individual.
So, what'd you learn from them? Like, that's got to be a cool camp to be in because they each have, you know.
I called Heath this week. I called Justin almost 2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Those guys, even outside of deer hunting, I can talk to Justin about life, family. I mean, I'm so lucky. Heck, I can call Andre to talk about life and stuff like that. Like it's a very cool group of guys to somehow have been exposed to. Very, very fortunate. But yeah, some of the crazy, like I was asking Heath, because I'm doing some small food plot work. What works well in his timber type of habitat? What's his process? Any tricks of the trade? Called him this week. I was asking him about that, and I'm doing a winter rye type process. And I asked him if he had watched the Sturgis videos of layering that rye, and just anything like that. Justin, it was a couple of years ago. He gave me the confidence that buck I killed late in the year or late in the rut. I was scouting and I found an area that I thought was hot, and I couldn't hunt it just due to work. And I said, man, I'm really worried about my boot traffic. What would you do? How would you approach it? And he was the one kind of bouncing 3 or 4 ideas and said, well, look at this access route in here. Try this next time. And yeah, both those guys, outstanding as far as mentors in the woods, if you will.
That's really cool to hear. I mean, even when Mark Kenyon had him on in the summer, basically back to back, that was really cool just to hear they hunt the same farm. They both had, they both have had incredible success. And then they still had like their own little like tweaks and methods. And it's just cool that, there's multiple ways to skin a cat, but this is really cool.
Yeah. I could listen to those guys talk deer all day.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What are you going to put in points for Iowa?
I don't know. So something I have discovered here in Ohio is the more time I can spend on a piece, and even some of like the neighboring states that I've hunted, when I build that experience, I am so much more deadly on those pieces. We saw it. I'm not going to name the state at this point, but when we go to a place year 2, we're in the chips.
Yeah.
So for me, and Cody, this is one thing I've really learned from Cody. He said he's very big on how often you can get to that piece, whether it be in the same season. And so I don't know about driving, 8-ish, 9 hours over to Iowa when there's 3 or 4 states in and around here in a 3-hour drive.
Cheaper.
Can
hunt it more often.
The hunting might not be as good, but I think I can get into what I'm after in those 3-hour drives from home.
So is it on your bucket list?
Not right now. I think I'd
That's
rather
great.
go out
That's
west.
surprising,
I think
yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
rather go out west with that money at this point.
That's surprising. I mean, it basically is an elk tag in terms of cost.
Yeah.
And then
$1,000.
some.
It's $1,000 tag.
Yeah.
If you're every 5 years.
Yeah. Can't wait to knock down a $140,000 one. You heard it here first. Okay. Yeah. All right. Then let's dive a little bit more into the trail camera cost study. What? Tell us a little bit more about that, and then like what it boil down to, like the true cost of per camera.
Oh man, it's been a minute since I did that.
I should have told you before.
That's
to
okay.
prepare.
No. But we could talk about how I broke it down. And so I initially looked at more of a budget level camera, and then more of an elite level camera, and looked at every aspect of what it means to run. Let's call it 4. I did the breakdown in the video for running 1 trail camera on one piece or running 4 or 5. Because there you tap into the gas cost of the day. And it's the more I've ran some trail cameras, the more I see the value in volume shooting. And running elevated sets, you get more false triggers. And so I'm an analytical financial guy. I want to be
Most efficient.
Most efficient. Yeah. So, in that video, I broke down, battery costs and SD cards, buying bulk SD cards, buying bulk batteries, being able to deploy, 4 or 5 at one time versus 1. Looked at the fact that, are you going to go check that camera one time, or are you just going to let it ride into the fall when you're already going to pay the gas to go hunt the place? You're essentially double dipping because you're getting some scouting in by pulling that card. So yeah, I did a video kind of breaking that down. What kind of shocked me was where I saw the value in buying a little bit better camera, because it's going to function where some of those fringe cameras, if they don't function, you're burning $40-$50 in gas depending. Time is huge.
Data,
too.
Yeah.
Frustration, what does that do to you mentally too?
Yeah. Well, and your hunting plans too, most importantly. Like, why are you doing it? And if it doesn't do its job, then it's pointless.
Yeah. I can't even remember. I think like a $60 camera boiled down to like $85 to run it. So just because you're buying that $65 camera, it's going to cost you $85 by the time you deploy it, put an SD card in it, put alkaline batteries. I know you guys are not fans of those.
Cardinal sin.
Leave that out.
I'm done with the Rayovacs. I'm buying the bulk energizers.
Sure.
I found a much higher percentage. It's only like, I think 30 cents a camera by the time you boil it down. But it's interesting. And once you acquire that camera, its importance of lasting longer, because
Absolutely.
you got to put new batteries in it every year. There's cost. You got to drive it there. There's cost. So if it's working for you multiple years, that becomes a high value camera long term.
Cool. Okay, let's talk about. I mean, honestly, your plans for the upcoming season. Do you plan on staying? Well, I guess going to Illinois,
Yeah.
Ohio.
Yeah, I do have an elk tag this year.
Oh, I missed that.
Undisclosed location.
Oh,
But yeah, I do have an elk tag. I will probably hold off on an out-of-state deer tag because my big concern right now is I have had the ability to take half days off work and really maximize good weather days late October, and then I've also been able to take good chunks during November. My fear with the elk trip is I'm burning a lot of time because you got to travel west.
Yeah.
That could be 2 to 3 days. So I'm burning a lot of time in September not chasing a species I really know well. But yeah, so that's going on September. I don't think I'm going to go to a state that would open early, like Wisconsin. I've hunted in the past. I've hunted Kentucky. It's not a fun time to be in the woods doing. Yeah, it's nasty. And pressure's really high. It seems like those opening weekends.
Everybody,
yeah.
Because where are you going to deer hunt? You
And
only
people,
have
yeah, people
days.
congregate to those states too,
Yeah.
because there's nothing else going on.
Yeah. So and probably make the wife happy. That's an important lesson as you
That is
do this
yes.
more and more. Is family life and the home life's got to be in order. So I probably will do the Ohio tag first, and then my goal would be to be able to shoot another buck late October. Do the homework. I don't do a lot of hunting between October 5th and the 15th. Do a lot of trail cam pulls at like 5 a.m. before work. I do a lot of boots on the ground between cameras or checking a few different areas, monitoring some hunting pressure. So I actually cast a net kind of wide and then I start narrowing in and
Refining your plan.
yeah, generally by late October, I have one piece instead of say 3 or 4 or 5. I used to hunt everywhere and I used to just almost say I was going to be at this pin November 5th and this plan November 18th. Now, the more I do this, I let the plan come to me.
That's good advice.
Yeah, that's something Cody really has. And, I remember I asked him, well, where are you going to be hunting October 28th? So I don't know. So I might be in Illinois. I might be here. It depends on what he finds out.
Right.
If he's got a buck to hunt on the home farm, he's probably on the home farm. But if he doesn't, he's probably somewhere else.
Well, I know this question probably doesn't fit your style. Like heavy scouting and in-season scouting, let the plan come to you. But we ask this. Usually, Jake is asking this question to most of our guests. If you had to gun held to your head, you could only hunt a couple days throughout the season. Like, what dates are you picking?
And don't say whatever day I have off, whatever.
No,
That's,
yeah. If I had to kill one deer, I know a ridge system that heats up. It seems to be the 14th, 15th, 16th.
October or November?
No, November. Like that doe group, for whatever reason, pops.
Yeah.
And I killed 2 bucks off that ridge system 2 different years. So that comes to mind if you said 3 days. If I had more 4 to 5, I might. I think I'm going to grind. I think I'm going to forego how I've killed a few bucks late October. I think give me 5 straight days, and I want the second week of November because it seems like the warm front tends to roll in the first week. The 8th through give me 5 straight days.
8 to the 13th.
Yeah,
those are pretty good dates too.
I think
Big deer on their feet.
Yeah, I'll hunt all day. I may do a little stand shifting for that evening post. I'm terrible at rut hunting in the evening though.
Why is that, you think?
Not good enough. I think a lot of my scouting is finding areas that those bucks are in the morning or that midday cruise. I think that evening game, I'm just not as dialed as a bow hunter to say, okay, if he didn't come through this terrain feature, this doe bedding area, to hit this scrape, where's he going to go in the evening to check on those does? I may not be as dialed on where those does are spending the evening hours, I think.
Okay, makes sense.
What are you, a morning or evening?
I like the evening. although some of the biggest encounters with deer in that piece of public have been in the morning. In fact, all of them with 150, 160 class deer have all been in the morning.
I've had the most success in the morning for sure. Just, I don't know. I think it's, I don't know. It's like it.
What about, so October, I do like the evenings. And I think for the working guy, the scout your way in, you almost get a 2-for-1 at that point because you can visually see and set up. But yeah, November's morning. I think October's I do evenings. Are you still
Well,
October morning?
Some of those late October mornings, I don't know. I'd spent some time in the stand early, not like I guess mid-October. That was based on cell cameras on an edge of a bedding area and them coming back. But there's been a couple close calls that like, a day late and $1 short and really close to those morning hunts. But they're all associated with the cold front, associated with recent information. I'm not going in blind in those early morning hunts, but rut hunts in the morning, I mean, that's what I live for. That's the best.
Yeah.
So I think deer are a little bit more predictable too in the morning too. I think so. They're where I'm at. They're going to be on the food in the morning.
My problem is like in the big woods, there's areas that they're going to maybe be, but there's so many of those. They're just not concentrated enough to know like, okay, this deer is going to be over here on this ridge on this oak flat. It could be in this clear cut. He could be over here in this little pocket of oaks. Like there's just too much to.
I can see that.
I think you can get away with murder sometimes in the morning. Like I have banged into some bedding areas where,
or you just don't know what happened.
And then I really think one of the Eberhardt be there stupid early in the morning. That is something that I think changed my deer hunting career for morning hunts. So I kind of like that as far as.
So you're a guy going in the dark, getting set up well before.
If I can, daylight? Yeah, and it's not so much that I fear the stand hang noise. It's the walk, like Dave says, walking crunchy leaves on a cold, crisp morning is the loudest noise in the woods. Like that little bit of stand rubbing against the tree, that's not the big concern. And it's all focused at that point versus when you're walking. So we say we'd like to be at the base of the tree about a solid hour 15 before daylight or before legal.
It's pretty early,
Sometimes that's a lot more doable than others. Kind of depends on
travel time and
travel.
Trek to it.
yeah, but that's something we're definitely big on.
Well, let me ask you this: how, as you're planning those out, how important is access to you? Because everyone talks about it, but give us an example of like something, a way that you access a stand because you have to.
Yeah.
Like you could walk 300 yards and be there, but in terms of access, it's more important to go a different direction. Do you have any examples like that?
Yeah, the snowbuck comes to mind as far as access. I could have parked the vehicle and taken a higher, easier route in, but I wasn't 100% sure. I thought in general, this area, if I was going to leave boot traffic, I was going to come up this bluff. Nothing's coming straight up that bluff. I might have to bear crawl, but I'll figure it out. And then all I got to do is cross this trail one time. And if you look at that video, I'm really, I guess, big on that final 50 yards access. And I'm notorious for standing there and just staring because I don't want to backtrack this evening hunt. Even with a headlamp sometimes, I will beam mode and just really look at my feed and stand there. Because when you make a rush decision, that's generally the wrong one. So I'm very much, those final 50 yards, take your time. I kind of blast the first bit of the trek. I got to get there.
Sure.
But that final 50 yards is something I'm very cautious of where I'm setting. I get creative sometimes. I'll do big J hooks into locations. That's one of my favorite things where if you came straight in, all those deer would know you're there, whether it be a visual or noise or they would smell you. So I'll walk further locations. I'm trying to think if there's anything crazy. Oh, I've parked the truck, walked the forest road a mile, and then ducked in because I felt like if I parked anywhere kind of closer, they would hear me, they would see me. Yep. It's just it was one of those things that I felt silly hunting not very far off the forest road, but the walk was pretty far, probably over a mile. But that's some of the stuff that I feel like with access.
Sometimes I think that's
important.
Guys look at roads in the big woods. I mean, it depends on the piece, but a lot of times, I think you can almost dissect a piece both by scouting, boots on the ground, and digital scouting, and take those roads depends on the roads, but take those roads out because the deer across them. Like we've had several camera locations, and we talked about this. I don't know if we talked about it in the podcast or maybe off air, where we have very large deer fairly close to the road on the cusp of daylight. I mean, they may be bedded on one side of the road coming across, vice versa, going back to bed. But I think that's interesting where a lot of guys are like, oh, here's a road. I have to get X amount of distance away from the road before I'm even in the game. And I don't think that's always the case.
Yeah, I would agree. I've kind of seen the same thing. Actually, one of my favorite scouting techniques is driving roads and marking where deer are crossing.
Yeah.
That's always a good thing or whatever. And you can figure out what their general movement is for maybe that road.
Right.
I know a particular area where it's a morning cross.
Uh-huh.
Every morning in the dark, you slow down at that turn, and generally these deer are going right to left. I know where they're going to this bedding area. There's a clear cut over here that they must feed in. It's pretty defined, which is crazy cool in that kind of habitat that you get more of a farm country bed to feed type movement going on there.
Have you ever hung a camera on a road just to?
I have.
Yeah.
Where you can see like people riding horses down the road if a vehicle. Terrifying. You got to hang it on the tree, face like sometimes you don't want it being visible from the road, so you hang it on that trail that's like away, if you will. But I have hung them on the road, especially when you get those big cuts that come up. And it's a quick pull.
That's the best part.
Zero effort.
Super efficient.
Yeah, and we talked about the volume shooting thing. I see a huge benefit doing that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, let's segment into a different section here. We're stealing this from Barstool, but it's Mount Rushmore. So we're going to go through a couple different topics.
Okay.
And you have to name top four people that come to mind, like the Mount Rushmore of that category. I think you probably listen to more deer hunting podcasts than anyone else on the face of the earth. I feel so confident. I feel so confident.
Wow, like he was doing you were doing the recaps.
Yeah, which is actually pretty cool. We should do this again.
Super, yeah.
Yeah. You listen to more deer hunting podcasts than anyone else. So don't feel pressured to name anyone on there, but the Mount Rushmore of hunting podcast, deer hunting podcast. You get 4 picks.
Okay.
Choose wisely.
Wired to Hunt. That's easy. I'm going to throw you guys in there. I listen to a lot. I get a lot from you guys.
Appreciate that.
You do a good job there. I got 2 more picks. Anyone at Dan Johnson, I think he's in there for me. And I got to think if there's like a guest that just takes one of these next couple to the next level. I might go Deer Hunter podcast.
Okay.
I think he on a few of he's had a guest on that I can think of 2 or 3 guests that he had on that I will listen to 4 times.
Mm-hmm. Do you find yourself doing that often on certain episodes, like going back and listening to it multiple times and getting different things from it?
Yeah, very much so. Certain guests, I'll Google. I actually Tony Peterson, before he had his own podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I would listen to his Wired to Hunt more than any because that was the only place I found him.
Right.
And he's a DIY guy.
Mm-hmm.
His podcast was up there, but he's shut it down. He's got other projects going on, actually.
Okay.
So yeah.
Do you want to burn through your list? Do you got a list you want to share?
Your list?
Mine, it's not that far off from what you said. For sure, Wired to Hunt. But it has to be deer hunting podcast. There aren't a whole lot that I listen to. A lot of the content I consume is outside the space. But big fan of Mark. He's the OG. I do like Kevin's too, the Deer Hunter podcast. Yeah. I like Kevin because it's more of like the Joe Rogan style, really long, like
laid back,
deep dives, super conversational, and he has some interesting individuals on there, like outside of the deer hunting world. So I definitely throw Kevin in there. Love Clint. I mean, I hunt with him on there periodically. I think Clint does a great job, so got to throw him in there. And the 4th, just like both of us, like 3 is pretty easy. Yeah. 3 is pretty easy, and the 4 is like, all right, well, there's the threshold there. I can't come up with something that
That fits in there.
Yeah, I just can't. Like Dan does a good job, but I don't listen to it often enough to like think it's
Sure.
Mount Rushmore, Rushmore, the podcast. I'll say Don and Terry, Chasing Giants. I'll put them in there. It's a relatively new podcast. I think that they're ultra transparent. I don't always align with like the things that they're talking about, but I think they do a good job of portraying like their opinions on it, and they'll, whatever they're thinking, they're going to tell you. So I throw them in there.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Mark Kenyon. Whitetail Legacy Podcast.
I just saw that.
Cody and Ryan are awesome guys.
Yes, yes.
They do a good job of talking to different guests, bringing different people on. So they're a refreshing listen a lot of times. They're like 17-day like rut thing.
That was wild last year.
Was really cool, and they're from Illinois as well, so it was cool to listen like what's going on, within a 400-mile radius. That's good. And then so let's see. I like.
You guys are cheating. You guys are phones.
This does help. This does help. I would make maybe a substitution or two.
Yeah.
I might. Yeah.
Kevin's podcast is good. His Mid Trumpala series, I think, is
been
the best thing that's happened to deer hunting podcasts in a while.
I agree. A little bit of reporter style.
Yeah.
He's got to put some effort in to get to those, and it's a different take.
Yeah,
on a deer hunting podcast. It's been cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to see like as he builds that out and he has different guest lists. I almost feel like he's probably in his garage and he has a thing of yarn and like thumbtacks and like if we talk to this guy, we got to get this guy on there, and then like this is the grand finale. So I'm pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And then honestly, the Chasing Giants podcast has been good. I think they have a lot of Q&A sections of that podcast that are always super relevant to what's going on right now. Obviously, they're from Illinois, or Don's from Illinois, and Terry Hunt's in Illinois too. So always enjoy that as well. So that's my 4. Yeah. Okay. Next one here, the Mount Rushmore of YouTube channels.
Ooh, that is tough. It's. Do they have to be hunting YouTube channels? I assume. Let's keep it in the space.
Yeah, that's
who's listening to this podcast. I watched The Untamed.
Mm-hmm.
I like those guys. They put a little bit better production value too. For me, that has to be there. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys are out there with just handy cams and rough footage. I like Chasing November is my favorite
series.
Yeah. I think Web Show. Is how I'll qualify that. Oh, Breaking Point. That's who. Yeah, Breaking Point. That's like my editing style. Like I watch Dylan's work and that team, and I made the joke for a while. They were the coolest guys wearing Sitka. They were elsewhere. But I really like their product. As far as it's really well done editing style. I like what they do, and they're still relatable. They're cracking bush lights, putting Tony's Pizza or
Jack's Pizza.
Yeah, the frozen pizza. And then I think I'm going to go The Last Breath Crew.
Yeah.
Visually very good. Garrett personally has given me a lot of advice, and Grant. I can call those guys and ask them a question. But they put out a very good visual product.
They're extremely hardworking. I think they're extremely generous.
They kill some big deer too for
do.
average-ish attainable. What they it's not like they have thousands of acres.
No,
and they kill some big ones.
It's just a credit to their hard work. I mean, they're the guys that are not scared to talk to anyone, to knock on any door, to not do anything. I mean, there's really I know them pretty well, and there's never an excuse for not being successful. Like you just go right through it. So
that was easier than the podcast, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Jed, you had a chance to
he's pulling it up.
I am cheating.
No. You're just getting.
You just want to have informed picks.
Jake's got a laptop.
Yeah. He's over here. The staple for me is Sturgis. It's Whitetail Habitat Solutions. Even though like I'm not in the habitat management, just understanding like some of his philosophies and some of his strategies, some of the approach, I get a lot from like the educational style. Like I'm the guy, if I'm going to spend time listening to something, like I want it to better myself. Like I don't care a whole lot about entertainment. Like I'm not watching things on YouTube for entertainment. It's usually doing some type of research or trying to do something, to make me a better deer hunter. So this is where my Mount Rushmore is coming from. So Jeff Sturgis tops the list. There's a guy by the name of Brandon McDonald that I just kind of came onto his channel. And he does a lot of archery stuff, a lot of bow reviews, but he's a super articulate guy. He's not afraid of spending money on high-end stuff, and he's not afraid to give you his opinion after those purchases. Again, a new channel I've just found maybe 3 or 4 months ago. Really like his style, like kind of a cinematic.
He does a cool job editing.
Yeah, and it's not like, he's not in some big fancy set. It's like nothing like, not this is big and fancy, but nothing like this. It's there's times he's on his porch or in a sea container and like but it's very a cinematic look. It takes his time and it's well done, well thought out, I'm assuming well scripted, because the guy's, again, very articulate and a very good talker, presents his information very well. So those are 2. Let me scroll through here. Let me see what I got that's a little bit different, because I think that we're probably, Garrett Prawl, DIY outdoors sportsman. Love, again, like the analytical approach. He's an engineer, a lot of product review type stuff. I think that's another value-based channel where you can go in and do some market research on stuff before you buy them. And he's super transparent too. He's another guy that super transparent. And he likes to tinker. So he's guys maybe building his own sticks, doing a lot of modifications, weighing things out, telling you how he did this. This is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3. Think he does a good job. And then I'm going to go, I'll just throw the 4th is, which I do watch, is the Hunting Public, just because those guys are always after something. They're always doing something. I mean, always. So if there is a sliver of entertainment in there, and those guys are educational too, picking things up from Zach, ground hunting, being ultra aggressive, Aaron, same deal. So there's a lot of educational stuff in there too, but that's my sliver of entertainment.
So recap them real quick again.
Jeff Sturgis, Brandon McDonald, the Hunting Public, and then the
DIY.
Yeah, Garrett Prawl. Yeah.
Good picks. Okay. Somewhat similar picks here. Jeff Sturgis, he always does those early weekend day releases, and a lot of times I'll watch those in the morning. Really interesting stuff. Next one, I have to say Chasing Giants, because he had a release that was extremely timely. I watched it, got up at 3 o'clock, and I like to take a shit before I go deer hunting, honestly. So I had to get up, drink some coffee, take my time, because that's the last thing I want to do when I get out there. So I get up, I set time aside, and that's where I was watching that. And so that's 2. The Hunting Public, I mean, they just make it look so easy, and they do it in so many different ways. So they're fun to watch. I don't tune into every episode or anything like that, but definitely catch a lot of their content. And man, I've been on a Bill Winke kick lately too. So he just started his own YouTube channel, and I've been watching a lot of that stuff, and it's just like, how have I missed that section of content for this long? So those are my picks.
Solid.
Was that easier than the podcast picks?
I think that was harder.
Okay.
For me.
It was a little easier for me.
I thought it was easier for me as well.
Yeah, a little easier for me.
Perfect. Okay. And then we have one more, and then we'll close it out here. Mount Rushmore of deer hunters.
Ooh. Can I change it to my pick 3? Remember you guys used to do that pick 3?
Yeah. 3-on-3 team?
Yeah, but I'll pick 4. I'm taking, let's see here. I had this down to a science that I felt like the other day. I'm taking bow hunting fiend, multiple habitats, East Coast killer, so higher pressure areas, but the habitat aspect alone, anything from mountains to swamps,
saltwater marshes.
Yeah, and then the PA stuff and 3D archer.
Yep.
So you can shoot.
Yeah.
So I'm liking him. How am I not gonna take Cody, my buddy?
Yeah.
I got to take Cody DeQuisto just because. I just feel like if you turned him loose on generally said, hey, go kill the biggest buck in this 100 acres of woods, that man would go figure it out. I feel like he works hard. I'm thinking I'm taking him as that guy. Number 3, who am I taking? Jared Scheffler.
Ooh, yeah.
That's a good pick.
Overlooked, yeah.
Yeah.
That is a good pick.
Been doing it for a long time. Multiple habitats, anything from grasslands of Kansas. Seen a lot of the states.
Any way to get it done.
Yeah. And if I had a 4th, why would I not take Andre? Dude's killed more big deer than.
Yep.
Yeah, and you could argue Winky or one of the habitat kind of guys, but I think I'm gonna take Andre as far as like 1,000 acre farm. That man, he gets after it.
He's
just
Gets
different.
it.
So yeah, I did take to the home buddies and the Quistos.
Well, you know them, so you're more confident. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've had multiple conversations with them.
Yeah.
Did anything change since the last time you did it?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fourth. There's
Sure.
3-on-3. Zach Farrenbaugh.
Yeah.
Well, let me back up. There's a guy that I don't think we mentioned when we kind of laid this out, whatever. It was a year ago, I think, when we did this, like March Madness in 2020. And that guy is Andy May.
Yeah, he was on my squad.
So he's a guy,
he
he just does not like to be in the spotlight.
He killed like $6 last year.
He does it everywhere he goes in just a couple days. And it's not like he's killing old deer and big deer.
Where big deer shouldn't be.
He's an interesting dude. I think he's obviously very intelligent. He works his butt off. And I kind of like the fact that he's like, he knows that he knows he's sneaky good, and everybody else knows he's sneaky good, and he still like is underneath the radar.
Yeah.
Like, and that's he's definitely on my squad. So Zach Farrenbaugh, Andy May, and then I'm gonna say John Eberhart. Like just the
high pressure state.
High pressure state, and he's a guy like, if you don't know him. Like, he has so much conviction. We were talking about him earlier. He has so much conviction in the things that he says. Like, when you watch an interview, it's almost like he could be just like a cocky, arrogant SOB. But he's not. Like, he's super humble, super easy to get along with. And the dude's, he's been killing deer a long time. I mean, 30, 40 Pope and Young bucks, like, whatever that number is, I don't even know. A wall and a sporting goods store completely covered.
Yeah. In Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them.
A legend.
Yeah.
True legend.
Yeah.
Is that 4?
Oh, we're doing 4. That's right.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, I went back to 3-on-3. Gotta give 4. Man, it's always like the fourth one. It's like 3's easy. 4's I'm trying to think who my original 3-on-3 team was. I'll say Dan. I'll say Dan. I'll say Dan in fault.
Okay,
I'll put him in there. I think that, like, on the educational side, he's done a lot for a lot for the sport, a lot for the community. I think for the most part, he's a good voice out there. And there's some things that we've had conversations with him. He's always treated us with like the utmost respect. And there's some things to learn there too. Oh, I know who.
Does Chad have like a farm manager guy on his team? I don't think he does.
I don't.
He's all got quick hitters.
Yeah, I know.
But like, so, okay, I said Dan, but there's another guy, like I could, like Dan's 4A, like this guy's like 4A1, like just a step.
First name start with the J?
Yeah. Are you gonna go? Are you
No,
gonna
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Would be Joe Rentmeister. He's another guy, like, seems like he kills deer everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I don't want to be a flip-flopper. I'm trying to think of what I said last time.
Nobody's thinking Winky yet, or the Drurys or Lee and Ted?
Yeah. I can go those not hard-earned bucks. I'm just kidding. Definitely hard-earned, but all right, I'm just thinking like within the last, it's always a lot of times whoever's top of mind because there's so many good people, but Don Higgins, we just talked to him. The last 4 years, he's done, like, I don't know if anyone else has a better, I can say this, no one has a better track record in the last 4 years on the face of the earth. And from a farm management perspective, give that guy a chunk of ground, give him 20 years, and then he'll do some incredible things. Like, you can't argue that. So that's number one. Number two, oh man. This is, I'm piggybacking off of a conversation from Kevin when we talked about the island deal. If you put someone on an island, they had to go kill a deer. He said Hal Blood would be like his pick for sure. He's a tracker in Maine.
Yeah.
So I'm not really familiar with him, but I'm just throwing his name out there of respect. So we have Don Higgins. I talk to Jeff often. he multiple terrains, multiple everything. He finds success wherever he goes.
Sturgis?
Yep.
Okay.
Flies are
right.
adding suspense here to
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
No,
here.
it's...
Man, I have an affinity towards John Eberhard too, just because he's like, from a pressure perspective, from a like not give a crap, like this, he has his way, it works, and it's hard to argue with 34 record book bucks in the state of Michigan. His out of state track record as well is very impressive. He just works hard. Like he talks about his Kansas buck, that big wide one, where he just that was the one where he's just like raining, and he just like get up, go hunt, get up, go hunt, get up and go hunt, get up and go hunt, no matter what. So I have a land manager. I have a make it happen for John, and it's really hard to go against like a Mark Drury too on what he's basically evolved the entire hunting community. Like I have a feeling he has if you could stem down to like the people's fingerprint on an industry and like how people hunt, he probably has the biggest fingerprint on the outdoor industry in the last 30 years.
You just think of all the TV personalities that have stemmed from the juries. It's
like been an incubator.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Now, you guys know my idea to make this all happen.
What's
All
that?
of this is groundbreaking. So we need Realtree, if you're listening, Ram. We need big money. 3-year tournament.
Okay.
Year 1, you give them total acreage of, let's call it 1,000 acres, 2 or 3 states.
Okay.
Total inches, so you can kill multiple bucks, multiple states, but the more real working type. And in fact, we're going to limit the time on this one.
Ooh.
So they can only hunt X number. We'll set them up working man style, but
14 days.
Yeah, they've got a lease in Kentucky for 200 acres, and then public land in Ohio, and then maybe one other state.
Okay.
The other is like a true THP. They got to go everywhere, 5 days, no history. Mm-hmm. And then year 3, this is why we need big sponsors, is the homegrown 1,000-acre farm.
Yeah.
Build it, and they will come kind of guys.
Grand finale type deal.
Yeah. But you take your core, your team, or your individual, whatever, how they do this.
Yeah.
But 3-year tournament. That's kind of how I've drawn it up. Because you could dump people into the South.
Yeah.
You could take them to Texas, and them Element boys would be laughing.
Yeah. I like it.
That is cool. And then the last one, I'm just gonna go kind of like cop out, top of mind, Bobby Worthington as well. This is another guy that just works his face off and makes it happen, and a really impressive track record. So that's my core 4.
Oh man,
a lot of big names, a lot of good resumes.
A lot of guys we just mentioned, nobody knew about 5-6 years ago.
Good point.
Yeah.
At least our demo.
And I would think podcasts have a lot to do with that.
Certainly.
Pretty cool how the space has shifted.
Yeah.
The one guy I don't know enough about to really talk about him. I've listened to him on the Wired to Hunt podcast. Seen some of the.
Oh, Troy.
Yeah.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah, just because his style, doing it like in mountain country in like Idaho, he's killing some big deer, and it's relatable to some of the stuff that I'm doing. He's an interesting dude that I want to learn more about.
You know who looks up a lot to Bobby Worthington?
Who?
Heath Cisco. The ice
Interesting.
man.
Yeah. His track record's hard to argue with anyone as well. It's like that list could be pretty damn big.
Yeah. There's a bunch of good guys out there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that episode with Troy, like when he was talking about scrapes in different areas, like I feel like he's talking to me. Like he just called me. I was driving my truck and hey Jake, I just want to talk about scrapes for about 30 minutes.
I did. I called Troy last summer.
Did you?
45-minute phone call conversation. It was awesome.
That's cool. Well, I think we'll wrap it up with that. Plug your projects and what you have going on, and tease your hunt that's coming out here soon.
Yeah. So the Whitetail Experience YouTube channel. I would say sometime in the next month. I haven't fully. The film's edited. The trailer's ready to go. I just got to pick a release date. That's going to be a big watch, and that'll be that deer 1 stick high, 7 yards, and how that plays out. And then Whitetail Addictions, the web show. We are probably looking at some time of a July release. A lot of the cores are done, but we still have a few logistics. I know you guys, big projects take some time to line everything up, but that'll be a good release coming out, and some relatable solo film type hunts coming from the Addictions team. So
that's cool.
That'll be cool.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming in. Gear Gadget podcast, second guest. We need to keep
the
day.
Yeah,
of the day, but all time as well in the new office. We need to make a guest book Should have done that.
Oh, we should have done that.
Third? Oh, yeah. Yep. Sorry, third.
You gotta have
Good
a
company.
target, shoot an arrow into it, and you gotta leave that arrow, and that'll stack up.
We always try to come up with something. Anyways, yeah. We'll wrap it up. Thanks.
Yeah.